Hi, everyone. My name is Emma, and I'm from the Unova Center. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Before we dive into our discussion on fertility, for those of you who are new to our community, I just wanted to let you know a little bit about our center, as well as tell you a bit more about our speaker. So Unova is an integrative wellness center acclaimed for its expertise in fertility and reproductive health. With 3 clinics in New York City and virtual services for people nationwide, we work in partnership with our patients to realize their full potential. We offer acupuncture, East Asian medicine, bodywork, and virtual consultations from the field's leading practitioners. And we have here Jill Blakeway, who's a renowned acupuncturist and herbalist, celebrated author, and the founder of Unova, where she's been treating patients for over 2 decades. Jill has always been passionate about supporting people's reproductive health and fertility, so much so that the New York Times described her as a fertility goddess and named her as one of Manhattan's top acupuncturists. She credits much of her success to combining the ancient wisdom of Chinese medicine with modern conventional biomedicine. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions prior to this discussion. We'll start with those, but if you have questions throughout, please add them in the chat or the Q&A section and I can read them out loud for you. And with that, I'm going to let Jill get started.
Well, thank you, Emma. I'm going to devote most of this time to answering questions because experience tells me that people have lots of questions and I can be useful just being on Zoom. But to just give you a little bit of background, a lot of the material that we discuss is in my first book, Making Babies, which I wrote with a reproductive endocrinologist. And that book, if you haven't read it, is a 3-month program. And you take a test, which you can take on the Unova website, a quiz, and find out your fertility type. And we did that, Dr. David and I, who's my co-author, because we wanted to explain to people that there isn't one cause for infertility or fertility struggles. And so there isn't just one solution. There isn't a one size fits all. But when we talked about it together, we realized that we could put our patients into 5 main categories and give them targeted advice. And the reason that book, on bad days, I go and look at Amazon, Emma, and hundreds of people now have said I did what they said in the book and I got pregnant, and it's very satisfying to help people I have never met. But the reason that it works is because we give a 3-month program that is targeted to you. And to give you the types very briefly, there is the pale type, which is people who are a little under-resourced nutritionally. That can be because they're not eating enough or eating the wrong things, but it can also be because they're not digesting their food properly and getting nutrients from it. And then we have the dry type, which is people who are low in estrogen. They look a little bit perimenopausal. They sometimes have hot flashes and dryness and that kind of thing. And they need a different type of advice to say the next type, which is the stuck type, who are a little bit the opposite, actually. They tend to be a bit estrogen dominant in relation to progesterone. Those people have PMS and fibrocystic breasts. They may have endometriosis even, or fibroids, or, you know, something just quite mild like premenstrual mood swings. But they're a type, and obviously we want to lower their estrogen intake. So we take them off things like soy and things like that. And then we have the waterlogged type, who are mostly, we wrote that type for people with polycystic ovarian syndrome, who have metabolic issues. Polycystic ovarian syndrome isn't really just about the ovaries. It's about insulin sensitivity and sluggish metabolism and irregular menses. And then we have the tired type, which is for people who are metabolically sluggish again and tired. And have I missed one there? No, I think I got them all. I think I did. Yeah. And good news is that we now have formulas for sale on the Unova website over the counter for each of these types. So you can buy a formula for your type that is aimed specifically at you. So it's a little bit more of a tailored approach to herbal medicine for fertility. And we also have formulas that balance both halves of the cycle. Those of you who come to Unova probably know that we often give a different herbal formula for the first half of the cycle before ovulation, and then another herbal formula after ovulation. And what we're trying to do is help your body create what it does quite naturally, which is create balance. And before I answer lots and lots of questions, I wanted to explain a little bit about why Chinese medicine is so good at helping couples to conceive. And the reason is it's based on the idea that we have qi, which sounds like a very esoteric concept. But what it really is, what qi means is it's all the ways your body behaves intelligently. So all the stuff we take for granted, in fact, that your body, all your organ systems synchronize and coordinate with each other. Your hormones are in a feedback system, and your body is constantly communicating, mediated through the bloodstream, mediated through the nervous system, and at a cellular level, mediated electromagnetically. So every cell in your body knows who it is and where it is and what it's supposed to do. And that is qi. That's intelligence. And blockages in that flow of communication mean that the body struggles to modulate. And the reason that Chinese medicine is so good at helping things like little hormone imbalances and circulatory problems and inflammation and autoimmune problems and all sorts of chronic issues is because it's very subtle. And that subtlety is in fact our strength. We offer little prompts to the body to go back into balance, to the body to behave intelligently. So that is what Chinese medicine is predicated on, and why it's so good at treating something very multifaceted like enhancing fertility, which has obviously a lot to do with your reproductive system, but also to do with digestion and stress and other pressures on the body that cause imbalance. So we're all about balance at the Unova Center, and we're all about getting your body to do what it knows how to do. And we have Chinese medicine, East Asian medicine has very sophisticated prompts to do that have been worked out over thousands of years, really thousands of years of empirical evidence. So we stand on the shoulders of giants and are able to draw on a rich history throughout Asia when it comes to traditional East Asian medicine. And that's why it's so effective, I think. So without further ado, Miss Emma, why don't you, I know you have some questions that people sent on Instagram and things like that. I just want to say for people who have to rush off or are only here for a minute, because I know what this is like, we are recording this, and everybody who's signed up for this webinar will get a link to the recording tomorrow, and also links to any research we mention and that kind of thing. Emma's very good at putting together an informative wrap up. So thank you for that.
Yes, yes, no worries.
Ask away.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for that overview. I feel like I've heard you speak about East Asian medicine and the fertility types 100 times before, and I feel like every time I learn something new, or you shine a new light on it, and it's so thank you. I heard you say this the other day, our strength is in the subtlety, and I think that's such a nice way of putting that, because it's often I feel like with these things, just a little nudge in a different direction or in one direction is really all that someone might need. So I love that. So we got lots of questions. Let's start with one question that someone submitted, and they were wondering about ovarian cysts and the impact that those can have on everything from fertility through to conception and pregnancy, and if there's a way that we can support it, or they can help support themselves at home.
Yes, it's a good question, and it rather depends on the cause of the ovarian cysts. Many people get functional ovarian cysts reasonably regularly, but people with PCOS get much more sort of long-standing ovarian cysts. So the functional ovarian cysts have a tendency to resolve on their own. That doesn't mean that they sort of magically resolve. That means your body, again, your body's intelligence, your body works hard to resolve them. And we do have Chinese herbs that we use to help people resolve ovarian cysts of that type. It's quite an important question, because a lot of people who do assisted reproductive techniques end up with an ovarian cyst. It's nothing to worry about for the most part. Occasionally it can be, but for the most part, it's nothing to worry about. And we can give you herbs that will help it resolve quicker. We have a herb that dissolves the little waxy coat around cysts, and it's quite magical, actually. So talk to us if you have an ovarian cyst that's stopping you from doing another IVF cycle. When it comes to polycystic ovarian syndrome, those ovarian cysts are more permanent, but they can still be resolved. And that's a whole body project. This is where Chinese medicine's holistic view works very well. We put people on low carb diets because insulin resistance is at the bottom of a lot of the problems with polycystic ovarian syndrome. And that leads to elevated androgens, which in turn can cause fertility problems and irregular menses. So we would treat that quite differently. If you're looking for an over-the-counter formula, the formula for the waterlogged type, what is that called? I know I should know the names of the formulas.
Do you mean the new ones?
Yeah.
So we're launching them soon. So you're hearing it here first. So the waterlogged formula we're going to be calling Invigorate.
Invigorate. That makes sense to me because it's all about circulation, but also boosting metabolism. And that's a good name. Emma comes up with names for things. So well done, Emma. And you can do that. But if you want a specially tailored formula to you, feel free to consult us. You can talk to us online. I do virtual consults. Everybody at Unova does virtual consults. Or if you're in New York, you can visit us and we could do acupuncture. Acupuncture has been shown to regulate the menstrual system, menstrual irregularities in people with PCOS. So the research was done originally, believe it or not, on rabbits who didn't ovulate. And apparently rabbits don't ovulate unless they're sexually active. Who knew? And so they took bunnies that weren't sexually active and they could make them ovulate with a certain set of points. And then they used the same set of points on women with polycystic ovarian syndrome. And they found that it regulated ovulation in a good percentage of them. So definitely worth doing acupuncture if you have PCOS. So that was rather long-winded, but I hope I've answered your question about cysts. Unless you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, they're probably reasonably benign, or endometriosis. Actually, there's such a thing as a chocolate cyst, which requires a bit more work, but we can help speed up the process of your body resolving them.
Can I ask too, you had mentioned that often people going through assisted reproductive techniques can get cysts. Is that because of the medications or?
Yeah, it's nothing to worry about. It is an occasional side effect. It doesn't cause any kind of permanent damage, but it can be really frustrating because you can have a cycle cancelled. It depends on the size of the cyst. This is a reproductive endocrinologist's job, not mine, but they assess the cyst. And the reason they don't start a new cycle if you have a significant cyst is because the fertility drugs, the follicle stimulating drugs, can stimulate the cyst and the cycle may have to be cancelled. So they try and get the cyst to resolve before they do another round of IVF. And that is where we come in. One of the good things about Unova is that we work hand in hand with people's doctors. We've done it a long time. I started my career in a hospital. I speak doctor, and I love collaborating with doctors. And I have enormous respect for what fertility doctors are able to do. Actually, it's an extraordinary field that has grown in its knowledge base in the last 10 years so much, and their results are just getting better and better. So we can assist in that way. But yes, it's because the drugs can make the cysts worse.
That's so interesting and definitely super good to know. And I feel like maybe just in the back of someone's head if that pops up. That leads us into a question actually, and then I see this one too about acupuncture. So I'll get to that after this one, but this one also was submitted about IVF. So I figure it's a good time to bring it up. And they were wondering about Chinese herbs to support IVF success. And I know that you were just talking about working hand in hand with doctors. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yes, Chinese herbs are very helpful for people going through IVF, but not when they're doing the actual fertility drugs. So we like to get going ahead of time and prepare your body to have a successful IVF. And there is good scientific data that backs this up. Emma will send you a link to this, but a woman called Dr. Lee Hollander, who's a PhD acupuncturist, did a meta-analysis of over 1,000 women, couples going through IVF. And what Lee found was she split them into 3 groups: people who had acupuncture just around the IVF, just around transfer; people who did 3 months of what's called whole systems Chinese medicine. That's everything: Chinese herbs, moxa, acupuncture, dietary advice, supplements, all the things we do, massage, for 3 months; and people who didn't do any East Asian medicine at all. And what she found was the group that did 3 months of whole systems Chinese medicine had considerably higher live birth rates. And Emma will send you that research so you can read it for yourself. And that bears out what I have always understood, what I've, just by treating my patients. And it makes sense intuitively to all of us, I think. And when I talk to patients about it, it makes sense to them that the healthier you are going in and the more in balance you are, the easier this process is and the more likely it is to result in a healthy pregnancy. So we give Chinese herbs ahead of time. We'll see you at any time. If you're just starting IVF, come and see us. But if we can have 3 months of regular treatment once a week with you, what we'll do is we'll do a full intake. We'll work out how your body works, what your pattern of disharmony is, and we'll set goals, short-term goals before the IVF to achieve, like no PMS or no mid-cycle spotting, or things like that, and we'll just chip away at it. And the healthier we get you, the better off you are. So the answer is yes, herbs are very helpful for people going through IVF, but taking them before is the way to go. The reason we don't prescribe them during is because your doctor is getting feedback from blood work, and if we give you things that your doctor doesn't understand, then it's like asking him to do his job with one hand tied behind his back or her back. So we prefer to keep out of their way. Doctors that we collaborate with lots of reproductive endocrinology practices in New York, and they're always grateful for that because it makes their job easier. So we'd like to give you herbs in the run-up, and we usually stop them when you get your period, and then you start IVF on day 2 of your cycle usually.
And to clarify, so herbs would not be recommended during the medication, but people can come in for acupuncture.
Yes, in fact, there's research that shows that acupuncture is very helpful to the outcome of IVF. There was the original study is called the Paulus study. Emma will link to it. But it took 180 women, half of whom did acupuncture with their IVF and half of whom didn't. And the people who did acupuncture with their IVF had a 50% better outcome. And that was published, I think, in about 2009. And or even 2007 probably, and it really made doctors sit up and take notice. Before that, they thought that acupuncture was just relieving a bit of stress, and they began to realize that it's helping circulation during the IVF, and so it's potentiating the stimulating drugs by bringing them to the ovaries. It's helping to create a nice thick uterine lining. It's stopping uterine spasm after transfer, which is an issue. Doctors give steroids and anti-inflammatories to try and stop that. But one of the finest things and the easiest things you can do is acupuncture after transfer. So we do acupuncture all the way through IVF, but we stop people taking the herbs. Thank you, Emma. That was a useful question.
No worries. What I'm here for. So someone had asked, speaking of acupuncture, how often should people trying to conceive naturally go for acupuncture? Would you recommend once a week, twice a month? What's the general guidance there?
It rather depends on what's going on with you. So we'll give you guidance when we know you, but most of our patients see us once a week. And if that is burdensome financially, then every other week is okay too. Regularity is important. We're kind of talking to your body. I always think of it like training a puppy or something, which is like we're teaching your body a new trick. And it's a bit like, you know, when you hear a new song and you hear it for the first time, and then the next time you recognize it, and then eventually you sing along. Well, it's a bit like that with your body, you know. So the repetition is important. We'd like to do it once a week, but we can do it every other week, and see you once during the follicular phase before ovulation and once during the luteal phase too.
That's such a good comparison. I've never heard that before. I like that. So someone just sent in a question wondering if you could talk about fertility treatments to help ovulation and regulating menstruation post miscarriage. And then they also mentioned that they have the geriatric pregnancy, or that they would be considered geriatric, which they also added an eye roll emoji, which I also eye roll emoji that phrase.
Yes, fertility medicine makes us all feel ancient. However, yes.
And this without IVF. So this is for like fertility treatments.
Yeah. Yes. And firstly, I'm so sorry about your miscarriage. It's hard. It's until you've had a miscarriage, it's hard to understand what a blow it is. It's not just a loss, but also your hormones, as this person alluded to, get messed up, and that can really affect your mood and you emotionally, along with the grief of losing a pregnancy. So we would like to take care of you. We have a lot of experience of taking care of people post miscarriage, and this is again one of those instances where our subtlety is our strength. You know, you don't want to, when people are out of balance, you don't want to give them anything very heavy that sways them around. We just gently draw you back into rhythm. And we do that using a combination of acupuncture and Chinese herbs. It would depend, what we gave you would depend on your symptoms and also your sort of constitution. So we'd need to do a diagnosis, but we're good at sort of getting you back to rhythm so that you can try again. It can take 2 or 3 months, which I know is frustrating, but actually for the most part it takes that long for you to recover and sort of get back to where you were anyway, emotionally, and deal. So let us take care of you. This is a good time to give a shout out to the Unova bodywork team who do reproductive massage. And sometimes massage can feel really good after a miscarriage. You're just someone being caring to you. And we do a very specialized version of reproductive massage. Daryl, our head of bodywork, is a genius. She's a doctor of Chinese medicine as well as a teacher of massage. And she and her team have developed a very effective reproductive massage. So as well as acupuncture, you may want to come in and have some massage too, and let us take care of you.
Thank you. And just to piggyback off of that, I'm not sure where you're located, but they also developed a virtual version of the bodywork program so that you can either massage yourself, or if you have a partner, they can help out too. So depending on your situation, and yeah, the bodywork program is incredible. Daryl is.
Those guys rock. And it sounds like virtual massage. It sounds improbable, but it's not at all, because our massage is based on meridian therapy. And so we can really teach you how to increase flow in your body, and how to move blockage, particularly circulatory blockage and that kind of thing. And so they do that. They're very skilled, the body workers, and they can explain to you what to do. There are some self massages also in Making Babies, so in the book Making Babies, so you can also have a look at those.
Yeah, I feel like this massage program is, while it is relaxing, it's also teaching you how to take your health in hand. So the virtuals are great for that too, to make sure that you're doing the techniques right and all of that stuff. But yeah, great. So let's move on to the next question, which I'm excited to ask because I know we have an exciting thing to talk about. So someone was wondering, and in fact, a lot of people ask similar questions. I'm just going to ask this one umbrella question, but they were wondering, how can food be used to support fertility?
Well, food is very important. It is the one thing you do every day that changes your body chemistry. And one of the things when you come to see us at Unova, we do is we take a look at your diet. And we're not remotely self-righteous or draconian about this, but we start to make sure that you're getting the nourishment you need to produce healthy eggs, healthy sperm, a rich uterine lining. But the reason Emma is so excited is because we launched yesterday, I believe it was, today, a food delivery service, which is a complete fertility diet. And this has long been like a hope. It's been on my to-do list. It's been a deep wish of mine to be able to do this, to take all the worry out of it. So we got together with a wonderful company called The Daily Dose. Trisha, who runs The Daily Dose, is such a great person and a fabulous cook. And all your food gets delivered twice a week so that it's nice and fresh. It's all cooked for you. And it includes, over the course of time, every nutrient you're going to need. And also fertility enhancing herbs and things like that. It's all sourced from small farms that practice sustainable agriculture practices. All the packaging is eco-sound. It can all be composted. You just put the packaging in the oven for 20-25 minutes and warm it up. And there's plenty of food. There's 3 meals, 2 snacks. There's bone broth. Every day there's bone broth because it's really good for fertility. And Trisha has come up with really innovative ways of including things like royal jelly, which is very helpful for egg quality, into smoothies and maca and all sorts of fertility enhancing goodies, superfoods, along with all the basic nutrients you need. So that's why Emma was so happy to answer that question. But of course, you don't need to order your special food to be delivered. You can follow the program for your type in making babies, and we laid it out really clearly, or you can ask us for advice. We know a lot about food and fertility, but it is important, and often people make tiny tweaks to their diet and their cycles just drop into place. This is particularly true of the people who have PCOS. When they cut down on carbs, it's miraculous. Lots of healthy fats. So this is a basic fertility diet, and a basic fertility diet has plenty of healthy fats, some sustaining whole grain carbs. You do need some to make reproductive hormones, good quality protein without any hormones in it or bad stuff, antibiotics, things like that, and lots of vegetables, and the slightly lower carb end of the fruits, things like berries and things like that. So all of that is in our new fertility diet plan. And I was very lucky. I got a week of it delivered because, you know, I have to test it. And it was so good. There were little bagels made not with flour. It's gluten-free, this diet, and dairy-free, because a lot of people get inflamed in response to gluten and dairy, and we're cutting down inflammation to help with implantation. And so the bagels were made with almond flour, and they were really good. I know I sound surprised, but Trisha is a genius.
Yeah.
And she managed
together, I
to
feel
make it all delicious.
Yeah.
And lots of nice veggies. So in a way, if you end up getting food sent to the office and things like that, it's about the same price as you would spend on all your food, and there's no waste. You know, there's no vegetables rotting in the vegetable drawer at the end of the week. It's all just packaged up for you. So I'm excited. I didn't realize we'd launched today. That is
Today
particularly
we
exciting.
announced it at 2 p.m. We already have a few orders, which is super exciting. I'm just very excited about this. It's really cool.
Yeah. I know that people are going to love this, because a lot of my patients have asked for it. You know, it'd just be nice if they could have the perfect fertility diet just there.
Yeah.
And
one less stressful thing too. I mean, I know that stress isn't the only thing that impacts fertility, but it definitely doesn't help. And if making yourself these fertility friendly, nutritious meals is a stress, this is a great option.
stress-free, and couples can take them because they've got all the ingredients in to make healthy sperm too. So you know, you can take cooking off the table, which after lockdown, people are a little sucked dry on the cooking. This might be kind of fun for people.
That's true. We just got a few questions in about the meal plan, so I'll just ask them quickly. One of them I feel like I know the answer to, but I'll let you answer. It's, do you have to do the fertility diet every day, or are meals out and splurges still allowed?
Oh, splurge. No, meals out are still allowed. Do that. I always say, actually, quite seriously, when you're trying to get pregnant, it's important to have a regimen you can actually live with. You know, when I'm designing a treatment plan for patients, I take into account that they may have to do this for, you know, a few months, 3 or 4 months. And so you can do anything for a week. I mean, you can live on celery juice or something for a week, but you can't do that for any length of time. And you can't spend any length of time not having fun or not going out for dinner. So feel free to splurge. The point of the diet is to give you all the nutrients you need. And then if you have some extra stuff, well, fair enough. In Chinese, one of my old teachers used to say 80% is perfection, one of my old Chinese teachers. And really that is true. Anything that you try too hard to make perfect starts to become too tight. And we want you to feel happy and relaxed. So do dine out whilst being on the program.
Yeah, I think that's important. Similar to 80% is perfection. I was thinking the other day, at least for me and my diet, I find that healthy-ish is healthier than healthy. It's like just getting yourself over enough with enough healthy stuff, I think is good.
Yes, you don't have to be perfect. We're not perfect at all, in fact, far from it.
So someone was wondering, this is actually a two-part question. They were wondering if this meal plan is keto or if it's keto friendly. I think you're able to do dietary requests.
It is keto friendly, actually. It has, well, it is and it isn't. It has no dairy, no gluten, no sugar. Lots of protein, lots of healthy fats, lots of vegetables. It does have some grains in it, although not many and not every day. But because actually you do need some grains to make, people have too many, but you do need some grains. But they tend to be the high protein grains like quinoa. So it depends how strict you are on your keto.
And then the second part to that question was that they've been trying the keto diet for, actually they don't say for how long, but that they've noticed that their cycles have gotten really long and they're wondering if actually they should stop doing the keto diet.
You do need it's a little carb free. You do need some grains, in fact. And I also think that when you're cooking for yourself on the keto diet, I don't know about you, but I sort of get into a rut and have the same things every day, like little egg cups for breakfast and things. So maybe that you're missing out a little bit on some nutrients. But yes, your menstrual cycle is a really good guide to whether something is working for you, actually, because it resets every month. So it gives you a pretty immediate feedback on whether something's working. So if your cycles are getting longer, abnormally long, over 28 days kind of long, then you may be missing something. And if you ask us, if you have a one-on-one session with us, we'll troubleshoot. We'll get you to keep a diary and we'll work out what. But it may be that you just need slightly more carbs. I don't think you're going to need dairy or the other things that you give up on the keto diet, but you may need just some whole grains.
Thank you. There's another question here about how to know what your fertility type is when you feel yourself associating with all of them.
Yes.
I think the quiz is a good place to start. You can take the quiz or read the book and take the quiz there, or your practitioner can also tell you. that's helpful.
We can tell you pretty quickly because it's 5 main groups, and we give you a much more in-depth diagnosis within Chinese medicine when you come and see us, but we can also tell you what your fertility type is. But take the quiz. We designed it so that you would know. You have a bit of all of them in you. You do. People are a jumble of imbalances, really. But there will be one predominant one. It's quite common. Can you see my dog in the background jumping around? It's quite common for people to be the tired and the stuck type. That's quite common. And that translates in biomedical terms to people who have slightly low progesterone after they ovulate, which means that estrogen becomes a little bit dominant and they end up with things like PMS and things like that. And you can take both remedies in that case if you're doing the over-the-counter ones. If we're making something up for you, we'll combine things for you. But you can take the tired herbal formula in the morning and the stuck herbal formula at night. That kind of makes sense because the tired one gives you a bit of a boost, and the stuck one helps you unwind. So you can take those. But talk to us and we will help you.
Thank you. Another quick one is if we accept FSA cards, and we do, and HSA.
Indeed. Yes. We're getting to the end of the year, so it's actually quite amazingly enough.
Yeah, I know we always remind people to use it or lose it, which I don't know if I love that phrasing, but use it or lose it because it is towards the end of the year. So it's a good time to.
Yes. So feel free to use your HSA or your FSA to pay for your acupuncture treatment. That is perfectly appropriate, and we process them.
We had an interesting question, which I'm excited to ask you. I know that you have interesting thoughts on herbs for fertility more generally. So someone had asked, what are your thoughts on taking Dongui, which is an herb or herbal formula?
No, Dongui is a herb, Angelica sinensis in Latin.
They were wondering if it's safe or if there are any risks. They've read that it's linked to breast cancer.
I know, which is really scary, a scary thought. Yes, it is. In the way we prescribe it, it's safe. There have been recent studies that have looked at it both in vitro, which is, in the lab, in test tubes, and also in vivo in mice that have been given human breast cancer. And it shows no proliferation in vivo. It is a slightly estrogenic herb. And the thing to know about Chinese herbs, I know they sell it in health food stores just as a single herb, but we would never prescribe it as a single herb ourselves. We would always prescribe it as a tiny bit of a much bigger formula where there's balance. So in the way we prescribe Dongui, it's safe. Science says it's safe anyway, but I am always a little cautious about it. I don't prescribe big doses, and I prescribe it in a very balanced formula. It is, however, a really important herb for regulating menstrual cycles and for increasing microcirculation to the uterus and things like that. So used judiciously in low doses, it is safe, and we do have good research now. And I will send you that research, Emma, so that you can send it to people, that shows that it's not increasing breast cancer risk. And that was in quite high doses. And in the tiny doses that we're prescribing, it's safe.
Thank you. And yes, I'd love to see that research too. I think that one's new to me. We actually had a few people submit questions with various ages, all over 40, wondering what your advice is for people who are either just starting to try, or if you would recommend going to do IVF, or what you think the best steps are for someone who's 40 or older who's trying to conceive.
Well, I think time is of the essence. Don't be disheartened. You start to get pregnant when you start to get pregnant. There's nothing worse than everybody telling you that you're suddenly too old, because what can you do? There's nothing you can change about that. But there is a lot you can do to change your reproductive sort of status. But the first thing I do is I suggest that people see a reproductive endocrinologist and have full testing. There isn't time to waste. I don't want to have someone come and see me for 3 to 6 months and then find that they have a blocked tube or endometriosis or something. start with some good reproductive testing so that we know where we're at. And then I think the thing to focus on is egg and sperm quality. One of the issues as we get older is that not all of our eggs are performing to their potential. And you can't really change corrupted DNA in an egg, but you can help each egg live up to its potential. And there are things you can do. Chinese herbs, this is a job for us. We have really good herbs for this and herbal formulas, and we have a lot of experience. Being based in New York, where a lot of people leave it a bit later to get pregnant, we actually treat a lot of people in their late 30s and early 40s. So we have some expertise in this area. So ask us. But here's some things you can do for yourself. CoQ10 appears to help eggs perform. And eggs are a very unusual cell. They have half the DNA because they're waiting for the other half from the sperm. But as a sort of replacement, they have more mitochondria, which is the sort of battery pack, the energy pack of the egg. And if you can imagine, going from an egg to an embryo requires a lot of energy, that transformation. It requires the egg to expend a lot of energy. So mitochondrial function in the egg is really important. And CoQ10 seems to help the mitochondrial function of the egg. So a good prenatal, some CoQ10, a small amount, the recommended dosage, not a ton, of selenium, which seems to cut down on miscarriage rates, and some zinc is a good way of helping yourself to have the best egg quality that you can have. And then know that, lots of people get pregnant in their late 30s, early 40s. So don't let people doom and gloom you, and lean into us, but also lean into your doctor. Get good testing and take some advice about, you may want to do IVF because they can get more eggs at once. And then they can always freeze embryos if there are some left over, and you could, then have a sibling later. I have one patient who has 3 boys, all of them conceived at the same time, and they were frozen embryos. And I've watched them grow up on social media and think what a miracle that was that she did that. Wow. Very cool. Yeah.
We have most of those things that you mentioned in our little Unova shop, but the selenium, I might ask you afterwards for your advice for a brand that you like, and then I'll send that to everyone.
You can always just have 3 Brazil nuts a day.
Or that.
I think the daily dose, adding Brazil nuts to the fertility diet for that reason, because I told them that people needed some Brazil nuts. You don't need a ton. You can OD, but if you buy some Brazil nuts, you could have 2 a day, 3 a day, something like that, and you would get your selenium, and that would be that.
That's cool. Okay, great.
Yeah.
I'll send that to everyone after this. That's a fun little hack there. I don't actually know the last time I had a Brazil nut.
They're yummy.
Okay, let's see. We're coming to a close somewhat soon. So if you have other questions, please submit them through the Q&A or in the little chat box there. What is your advice for someone who's trying to conceive and who has endometriosis? I know that we've brought up endometriosis a bit throughout this, but I know that it's a difficult one because I think it's hard to be diagnosed with it. So I think it's on a lot of people.
Well, it's one of those things, endometriosis. Some people have a tiny amount of endometriosis and it causes them enormous trouble and they have very painful periods. And some people have a lot and have no symptoms at all. So some people it's easy to spot, they're having very heavy periods, painful periods, and it's easy to spot. It's also hard to diagnose for the doctors because although they can sometimes see it on sonogram, the only real definitive diagnosis is a laparoscopy. It's a little bit difficult to diagnose. Here's the deal with endometriosis and fertility. It's not, sometimes it's just structural. You know, the endometriosis, for those who don't know, is endometrial tissue that's growing outside of the uterus. And sometimes that endometrial tissue is blocking a tube or has made it hard for implantation, and that's a structural issue, and that requires surgery. But sometimes it's more what your body is doing in response to the endo, which is why people can have a very small amount of endo and have a lot of trouble with it. And that's a combination of mucus. Some endometriosis is mucousy, and inflammation. So what we do is we give people mucus clearing herbs, because if everything's gummed up, not the technical term, but if everything's gummed up, it makes it hard for an egg or a fertilized egg to move smoothly through the tube and implant. And if you have a lot of inflammation because of the endo, your body starts to mount a defense against the inflammation, and you have an overactive immune system which can get in the way of implantation. So we, our subtlety is our strength again. We're very good at modulating the immune system. And so we would put you on herbs that are modulatory. Acupuncture is also very good at getting inflammation to subside. It's very normalizing. Again, it's a prompt to the body to do what it knows how to do, which is modulate inflammation. That's the body's intelligent response unless it gets overwhelmed. So we would treat you with anti-inflammatory herbs and acupuncture. And a lot of our endometriosis patients go on to conceive naturally. Some of them need more specialized help. There are, for people with very severe endometriosis, they often have a surgery, and then some of the REs will put the patient on medicines that kind of close, that simulate menopause almost, that close everything down so that it doesn't grow back, and then they do IVF and wake everything up again.
I was also wondering, I recently heard about, and I hadn't heard about it before, and I was wondering if you could briefly speak to the difference between endometriosis and
Adenomyosis.
Sorry.
Yes. Adenomyosis gets us onto the sort of fibroid area. They're all somewhat similar. They're structural issues affecting the uterus, but they take a slightly different approach. We would give circulatory herbs, and we would, do you remember at the beginning of this when I talked about estrogen dominance? This is when we want to make sure that people have enough progesterone to offset estrogen. Which we would handle herbally, but you would also ask your doctor.
Cool, thank you. I'm just going to look at my list of questions here. Oh, we just got another one. Oh, this is an interesting one, actually. I feel like I've heard you speak about this before. Someone was wondering what your thoughts are on Hashimoto's and infertility, and would acupuncture be able to help reduce inflammation?
Yes. Hashimoto's is autoimmune hypothyroid. It's very common. Particularly in women as they get a little bit older. It's very common. One of the things that really helps is to go gluten-free. And we have a very good article on the Unova blog. The Unova blog is a real resource, everyone. And Emma will go and dig that out about why gluten affects Hashimoto's. So we'll send that to you in the wrap up. But the problem is that thyroids have a tendency to skate around in early pregnancy. And so hypothyroid can be a cause of early pregnancy loss. So we like to get your Hashimoto's under control. That may involve medication, levothyroxine, or one of the thyroid medications from your doctor. From our point of view, Laura, you're quite right. We would reduce inflammation. Again, your body can regulate your thyroid and is mounting an immune response to your thyroid that is imbalanced. And so drawing you back into balance is part of our treatment. And we often combine that because the people with Hashimoto's tend to be a little bit older. We don't waste time. So we often suggest they combine it with Western medical treatment too. But an anti-inflammatory diet, including no gluten whatsoever, is really helpful for Hashimoto's. And I've seen people completely solve their Hashimoto's by doing that without any kind of medication at all. So very much worth doing.
Yeah.
Oh, and she asked about acupuncture, and acupuncture is really great for this. It's a prompt to your immune system to regulate.
I'll send that article. I already found it. I have like a weirdly good memory of every single blog that we have.
We've been blogging since 2005, which was long before Emma joined us. But we have a very rich blog archive in there. And Emma has managed to memorize thousands of blog articles and pulls them out when needed.
Yeah, we've done updates to the website before where I've had to like go through each one by one. And so I just need to know anything. I've got the link.
It's all in your head.
In there. Let me just check this question. Someone was wondering, what are some of the best ways to involve my male partner in the fertility journey in terms of Unova and Chinese medicine?
Yes, it's really important to remember that it takes two people to make a baby, or it takes sperm anyway. I'm just saying that for the single mothers by choice. But if you have a partner, then I think that one of the things to get across to them is men think if they've ever got anyone pregnant, then they're fertile. But their fertility is not remotely static. They make new sperm every day, which come into fruition in 3 months. So within 3 to 6 months, they can really improve their fertility. That's the good news. And actually, the biggest cause of secondary infertility, which is not being able to have your second baby or a subsequent baby, is male fertility. And it gets missed a lot, I think, because we have a lot of things to do for women, unfortunately. And it's a frustration for us at Unova that our female patients get prodded and poked a lot and nobody's paying attention to a male partner. We treat men for male fertility, and we have lots of blog articles on the subject. But we have a sort of male prenatal in the Unova store, Fertile Aid for Men. That's a good place to start. That has all the basics in. And then we can make a specially tailored herbal formula as well. But the first thing to do is make sure that they get a semen analysis, which is not a test they like doing. And I have empathy for that. I think it's slightly miserable, but it's important to know, because there's nothing worse than you working really hard for 6 months on your own fertility and then finding out that your partner has a low sperm count or misshapen sperm or something like that. And we could have been working on that at the same time, which saves a lot of time. So you can make a consult for your partner, and they can come in and we'll get them on a herbal formula. They also benefit from acupuncture. It's amazing how often people's partners tell us how much they like acupuncture. They would never have come if they weren't trying to get pregnant, but they kind of like it. They sneak out from work and go to sleep on our nice relaxing tables while we pamper them, and they kind of enjoy it. But yes, it's important not to forget men. And the good news is they can make real change within 3 to 6 months of concentrated effort. So that's good to know.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I always feel like acupuncture treatments are kind of like a 2-for-1. Like, yes, it is super relaxing, but it's also a full treat. I mean, you can do more than one thing at once.
Yeah, no, it is, it is very relaxing. You get a bit of an endorphin release. So you feel kind of floaty in a good way. So it's fun, but we are actually treating you at the same time. The point isn't necessarily the relaxation, but that's a nice side benefit.
I also wanted to ask, I know we have a new service coming up in the fall, which I don't think we're launched yet, but I know that we have other programs too. I was wondering, for people who are curious in learning more about their fertile health and how to take their health in hand, what kind of options do they have in addition to or instead of acupuncture?
What we try to provide is lots of different options at lots of different price points to suit everyone. So there's a lot of free information like this, actually, and blog articles and things like that. And we're very committed to doing this educational work. Emma and I do this kind of webinar quite regularly. And we're committed to answering your questions for free in this kind of forum. We have a phenomenal fertility coaching group, which meets as a group. It's a small group. Usually we keep it small so that it's intimate. It's led by Anne Brunn, who is one of our senior practitioners. Anne and I have worked together for, I think, about 12 years now. She's a phenomenal fertility coach. And so she takes you through an 8-week course on everything, and she can answer all your questions. And you also get the support of other people in the group. And our previous groups have absolutely loved this, haven't they? Some of them have continued to meet on Zoom after the 8 weeks is over. We decided not to have a support group as such that just went on forever, but an 8-week coaching group with a purpose. But they do meet to support each other, and they've become firm friends every time we've run this group. They get to know each other well. But that, I think we have a new group starting, don't we? Soon?
We decided to make this upcoming one slightly shorter because of all the different holidays that we're about to run into. So it's a 4-week group, but Anne is she's formulating it so that we're still covering the same amount of topics, but she's sending out a questionnaire beforehand so that she can focus on what everyone in the group needs to learn. So it's going to be great. There's still going to be the guest speakers. We're missing out on having Daryl guest speak, which makes me sad, but we'll have Dr. Lucky Seacon from RMA come speak, Dr. Novak, who's a therapist, to come speak about emotional resilience and how to keep going. And it's always been really great. I get to do it should technically be kind of a chore, but I do the tech support for the group. So I see every single every meeting, and it's just amazing. I
hear it's phenomenal. Anne does a really good job of giving everybody the information they need, even in a 4-week group. I bet she can do that if she sends out a questionnaire and finds out what people are struggling with. So the group is really cost effective, and that's a good way of getting information and interacting with us. It meets online, so you can do that no matter where you are. You can also have virtual one-on-one fertility coaching with me or with the team. I'm a little bit more expensive, and so some people do their initial with me and then follow up with the team. Whatever works for you is fine by us. We just want to support you. Obviously you can come into the center too. You can you can take the quiz for free and find out your fertility type, and there's a lot of information on the Unova website about what to do for your fertility type, or you can buy Making Babies and follow the program for your fertility type. So there are lots of options, from getting your food delivered to buying an over-the-counter formula, to having a formula specially made up for you, to one-on-one fertility coaching, to group fertility coaching, to acupuncture treatments, body work, virtual body work. We've tried to find ways of supporting people no matter where in the country they're at, and also to suit different people's budgets, because we're conscious of the fact that it's been a very rough time for a lot of people. But I do recommend the fertility coaching group. It's I haven't had the benefit of going to them like Emma has, but the patients write to me and tell me that they love it, that it was the best thing they did, and that it demystified everything. And as Emma pointed out, we have a reproductive endocrinologist come in, so you can ask all those questions for free, all your reproductive endocrinology questions. We have a therapist, because it's really important to work on emotional resiliency, because a fertility journey takes its toll. And we teach you how to chart your BBT, and how to know when you're ovulating, and how to time intercourse, and how to spot problems in your cycle, and how to troubleshoot them. It's a lot of valuable information. Even in the quickie 4-week group, I bet she gets a lot of information in there.
Yeah, I mean, we did a even more brief one over the summer, which was a 3-week one. We've been really playing with the times, which throws everyone off when speaking about it. But even the 3-week one was jam-packed. She's
Yeah.
really good up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes.
Well, I think we're running out of time, or we're just about to hit the mark. So I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing your evening with us and for sharing all of this knowledge with us. And it's been really fun chatting with you.
Yes, thank you, you guys. It was lovely to see you kind of in the chat. And thank you, Emma, as always, for collecting everybody's questions and asking them in such an interesting order. It always flows beautifully, and I appreciate you doing this with your evening. So we will see you in the clinic or online. Go and take the fertility quiz at unovacenter.com if you haven't. That's a good place to start. That's free, and we'll give you lots of information. And have a look at all the ways you can join us, which are various and something to suit everyone, I think.
I think so too. Well, great.
Right.
Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.